And now, breaking the news with Dan and Jordan.
This week's episode is brought to you by Ike's Calamities. Ike's Calamities, terrifying families since 1933. Make sure to get yours today. Ike is having a discount on Calamities. They're BOGO right now. Buy one, get one, 8% off. And now, our top stories. Breaking news from the world of the mafia. A lot of you are probably familiar with wise guys, mafiosos, lieutenants, and the like. But what you probably don't know is one of the strongest crime families in the country is led by Don Crocodile. He has often been suspicious of bringing new members onto his crew, searching them for wires, dragging them into swamps, and most of his rule has been spent with a scaly fist, cracking down on other crime families. But lately his health has been slipping, and he is now on life support.
This is something you just hate to see. For years, Don Crocodile was in every child's nightmare. I remember when I was growing up, my mother would tell me stories of how if I misbehaved and I was near a body of water, Don Crocodile would come slithering out and pull me under.
He's known to snap, and his temper is only rivaled by such mafia legends as Al Capone and Bugsy Siegel.
Well, I will say this about Don Crocodile. At least he never was caught by the government. And he will die, presumably a natural death here.
One can only hope.
Well, breaking news from the world of flavor. Jordan, are you a tea drinker by any chance?
I am. I drink tea, I drink coffee, all sorts of beverages.
This is specifically about tea, though. Because there is a new way to brew tea. For the longest time, humanity has been using little dried up leaves in water. It sounds preposterous when you think about it. But now, a new company has decided to give us more options in this way. They are delivering teeny tiny little octopuses to put in glasses of hot water that create all sorts of spectacular flavors. Some are even poisonous.
People who drink these teas might worry about being dragged to the bottom of their glass by these teeny tiny little sea monsters. How do they get around that?
Well, Jordan, the hot water subdues the octopus into thinking it's enjoying a nice bath. So it doesn't really feel like lashing out or doing anything because it's so relaxed. Often its tentacles will go behind its head in this sort of pose as though it's relaxing and enjoying itself.
It's very cute indeed. Probably more popular than steeped tea.
Very, very popular.
Outstanding. Breaking news now from war-torn Ireland. As you know, Ireland had its share of troubles, a tumultuous time, if you will. But what you probably don't know is Frosty the Snowman was an instrumental figure in bringing those troubles to an end. Now, of course, Frosty suffered many injuries during his time in war-torn Ireland, having his hand blown off by a hand grenade, having his chest riddled by bullets from machine gun fire, and most notably, being shot by a sniper when he brought his pipe up to have a puff.
I remember that story well. In fact, we covered it on this very program. And when we checked in with Frosty after his reconstructive surgery, I couldn't even tell that the sniper bullet had hit him in the face. He looked exactly the same as he did before. Amazing surgeons that worked on him there.
Yes, the surgeons were able to find a near identical carrot to replace his destroyed nose. Frosty went to receive a hero's medal for his brave work during the troubling times in war-torn Ireland. But unfortunately, the lights were very, very hot at the ceremony, and Frosty melted upon receiving his Medal of Bravery.
Still, I think that's the way he would have wanted it. After spending so much time around this conflict, I think his whole identity would have been thrown into flux now that it was no longer there for him to, kind of spread joy and make the Irish feel a little bit better about things.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Well, I have some breaking news now, Jordan, from the world of art. Many people suspect that painters throughout the years have embellished upon the natural features of the people that they're painting. And I can now confirm this story is true. In fact, scientists now suspect that most paintings that are of human beings were actually done of animals.
My goodness. Well, this explains a lot of the new popular paint colors and old popular paint colors such as Great White Shark White, Blue Jay Blue, and Turtle Green.
Absolutely. In fact, historians are now questioning whether the world was ever run by human beings at all, and was instead maybe run by some types of super intelligent animals.
You know, Dan, on many days I wake up and I think how much better off we'd be if animals seized control of our lives.
You and me both. You and me both. Same page on that one.
And we're rarely on the same page, as our viewers and listeners know.
Mm-hmm.
Breaking news now from the world of astronomy. Perhaps you've heard of a mysterious Planet 9, or Planet X, as it sometimes is labeled. Well, astronomers have recently detected a new planetary body in our solar system. It's slowly approaching, so no need to panic, but scientists do expect that in 6 trillion years, this planet will collide with Earth, because this planet is a giant tortoise.
Well, it's very interesting because the prevailing scientific consensus used to be that a hare planet was going to be colliding with Earth in only 200 years. But after, about 100 years of monitoring, the planet seemed to stop moving at all.
Scientists suspect that that planet fell asleep because space is so dark.
I often have the same problem when I walk into a dark room. I almost immediately fall asleep before I can turn on the light switch, so that makes a lot of scientific sense to me.
Me too, and I often am beaten in races by turtles, so I know what that feels like as well.
Well, breaking news, Jordan. From the world of firefighting now. We've probably all seen the images of a plane flying over a forest fire, dropping gallons and gallons of water on it in a desperate attempt to try to quell this natural phenomenon. Well, now chefs are figuring out a way we can take advantage of this power and harness it for our own good. They've taken to adding spaghetti and meatballs to the boiling water that is produced when this water hits the fire, and they're creating delicious, amazing gourmet dishes with it.
It's fantastic because, as we all know, a forest fire is really the forest's way of expressing heartburn, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So by flooding it with pasta and meatballs, it's sure to quiet the forest's tummy.
And people are lining up around the forest to try this brand new delight. In fact, when this reporter attempted to indulge in some of the delicious spaghetti and meatballs produced by a forest fire nearby, I was sent away and told that the wait would be more than 15 hours for a table.
My goodness. Well, that's what happens when animals start getting reservations and booking ahead of people. Really backs the lines up.
Well, it's their local eatery, though, so I can understand why they'd be the first in the neighborhood to try it out.
Makes sense. They get a jump on it.
Mm-hmm.
Breaking news now from the world of ants. An ant can lift over 500 times its own body weight. And that's what happened today as an ant strolled down 6th Avenue and Oak Street, wielding a giant log above its head. Police were so shocked to see this that they crashed their cruisers right into each other. Of course, the ant was carrying the log to rescue a boy who was trapped deep down inside of a well. Lowered the log inside of the well so the boy could climb on out. And then, unfortunately, the ant decided to eat the boy.
Well, I mean, at least you saved him first. Didn't let him die down the well, so that's a nice thing to see. I guess what startles me, Jordan, is that usually you're used to ants on a log, not log on an ant.
That's true, but they can log this one as murder.
Breaking news now from the world of war. Now, Jordan, I know you're a fan of war, and I'm also a big fan of war. I think for years and years it's been something that can entertain and bring a country together. But now the way that warfare is changing might be a little bit hard to take. Instead of using bullets and guns, the military will now be equipped with the finest frankfurters.
I think this is an excellent decision because, as you know, frankfurters are often used in all-you-can-eat competitions. And if the enemy is constantly eating, they can't be fighting.
I guess my only concern with this new scheme, Jordan, is that the enemy soldiers will be so invested in eating these hot dogs that they'll forget to fight the war at all, leading to peace amongst all nations.
That's possible, as long as the dogs don't run out. Hopefully that never happens.
I see. So maybe the military's top brass is considering once the hot dogs run out, the enemy will become extra mad and want to fight even longer and harder. Okay, that makes some sense to me.
I think so. Once they get hungry, they're sure to get very riled up.
Okay, excellent.
Breaking news now from the world of football. Perhaps you've been watching a football game and you've been thinking to yourself, gee, this could use a bit more excitement. Well, the people that own the NFL, the National Football Fans of Football League, have agreed with you. And they've decided to assign 7 referees to each individual player, bringing the total number of referees at one game to over 600.
Excellent. When I talk to most fans of football, this is the number one change they wanted to see implemented into the league. So it's wonderful to see it finally coming to fruition. More scrutiny on the players means more exciting plays, means more fun for everyone.
Exactly. The referees will really be piling in on these players, watching them like a hawk, making sure that they don't get away with any shenanigans, and making sure that every aspect of the game is duly observed.
This should save a lot of time, too, in replays, because instead of having to go to some video to understand it, you just ask one of the many referees on the field.
Precisely. This, of course, as you know, was done not only to add excitement to the game, but because studies found that referees were getting distracted during play, looking at their cell phones, looking at balloons, looking at birds in the sky. But with 7 referees assigned to each player, it's assured that no call will go uncalled.
This should also do a lot for referee unemployment numbers, which have been way, way up in the past couple of years.
Yes. Yes, it will.
Breaking news now, Jordan. And a follow-up to a story that we brought you last week. As our most diligent of viewers and listeners will recall, we brought you the story of Mr. Lizard, a high-ranking CEO who assured us once and for all that no lizard people do not run the world. And today, Mr. Bird with the Bird Corporation is saying that bird people do not run the world either.
I'm glad that these brave souls are able to come out and address these allegations head on and put these rumors to rest.
Well, you know, with the loss of the lizard people as a conspiracy theory, a lot of people are scrambling, desperately looking for another creature to fill in as their chief operator on Earth. And birds are very similar to lizards in a lot of ways, so it's a natural progression.
These particular individuals, though, have always been at the cutting edge of trends in business and industry. Mr. Lizard, for example, I know instead of relaxing on a chair, likes a hot rock so that he can absorb its heat.
Well, that's very interesting, because actually Mr. Bird with the Bird Corporation, he prefers to perch over top of his empire, looking down on it and kind of moving his head like this.
This is why these are the top minds in the country, because they go places that people just aren't willing to go.
Well, we can finally put this conspiracy to bed once and for all.
It's fantastic.
Which brings me to our expert segment of the night. We've invited esteemed car thief Jordan Ward onto the program. Jordan, thank you for being here.
Hello, thank you for having me.
And I'd just like to clear up some misconceptions around car thieves. A lot of people think of car thieving as a mean thing, a bad thing, a disgusting thing that only a terrible person with no morals would ever conduct. Can you help me to understand why that's wrong?
Absolutely. I would love to do that. You know, a lot of car thieves will see media and they'll refuse to comment. And I'm not one of those people. I'm willing to tell reporters anything that they want to know. And the first thing that I think reporters want to know is, why is being a car thief good? And I'd like to emphasize the fact that it forces people to think about how much they care about their car. Once the car's gone, they realize just how important it was to them. And as you know, there's a common phrase: you never knew how much you loved something until you lost it.
Oh, that's very interesting. That's very, very interesting. Normally someone would say, if you love something, set it free. But how do you do that with a car without the aid of a car thief?
Exactly. And that's really our mission in life, is to set cars free.
Well, I'd like to ask some questions about the historical origins of car thievery. Now, did car thieving begin with the car? Or was there a kind of a precursor theft that would be equivalent?
Well, I guess there would be a precursor. Car thievery really began with anything that people were riding, as long as they were making vroom vroom sounds, at least before the car came along.
Right, of course.
So, as you know, this really started out when people were riding horses. It's where the term horsepower comes from. Horses are very powerful animals. And you also have to hotwire them. So the similarities between a horse and a car are very, very deep.
Oh, interesting. I never would have expected that. I thought the term horsepower was, I don't know, like some sort of made-up acronym or something that the car companies use to try to sell things to us.
Oh, the car companies. Now there is someone who you can't really trust.
Good point.
Taken from a car thief.
Very good point. I've actually seen that they put in measures to prevent car theft, where they'll turn off the engine or an alarm will blare.
Yes. And unfortunately, we're constantly having to reinvent ourselves and to innovate new and exciting ways to steal cars. They make our jobs very, very difficult, but we have rigorous standards, and we always make sure that we're one step ahead of the curve.
Excellent. Excellent. Now, Jordan, can you enlighten me here? I'm a little concerned that people think that car theft and truck theft and SUV theft are the exact same thing. Are they?
Absolutely not. They couldn't be further from each other, actually. You know how apples and oranges are different?
Mm-hmm.
Well, so are cars and trucks. And people who would say they are the same, I think, shouldn't even have a driver's license.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and agree with you on that one. And I just have time for one more question here, Jordan. While we have you on the program, I'd like to ask you about a personal experience of mine. I've been arguing with my wife lately about, has my car ever been stolen? I say yes. She says no. So here's the circumstance. I had run into a convenience store. I was only going to be in there for a minute. So I left the keys in the car with the engine running and the doors unlocked so that I could just run back in and get going again. But when I came back out, someone had stolen my car, right?
Well, if they didn't shove a gun in your face, if they didn't smash a window,
No.
if they didn't, have to hotwire the car, I mentioned the hot wiring before, then it's really not a theft. I mean, sure, have they taken it? Yes. Does it belong to them? No. But did they have to do the work of thieving? Absolutely not.
Okay, well, I guess I owe my wife an apology then. I haven't been talking to her for the last couple of weeks.
Makes me upset hearing things like that,
I can tell now. I'm sorry to have made you emotional there. I'll just wrap it up with one question that isn't so personal and close to you. Do you consider people who steal a car just to joyride it and then leave it to be actual car thieves? Or does the car thief experience require you to take it to a chop shop, sell it off to a criminal, that sort of thing?
Yeah, the latter. People who would just steal a car and joyride or crash it and burn it in fire, those people are a disgrace to our industry. So
well, I hope that the police will crack down on them very soon.
Well, that's one good option, or maybe someone else will steal the car from those car thieves.
Oh, I see. Kind of make a bad thing into a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Perfect. Well, thank you for being here today, Jordan. That's all the time we have.
Thanks for having me.
And I'd now like to turn it over to sports with Jordan Ward. Jordan?
Thank you, Dan. Breaking news now in the world of sports. We'll now examine the 1968 World Rowing Junior Championships, and I can bring to you breaking, exclusive news that we have just found out. Here are the standings, the final standings for August 4th. In rank number 1, the country of Ned. Rank number 2, the country of Girder. Rank number 3, the country of Gerber. Rank number 4, the country of Ida. Rank number 5, the country of Sui. And rank number 6, the country of Pole.
I expected Pole to do a lot better in that regalia. A lot better.
Me too. They unfortunately finished last in this final of the FA 4th of August with their boat Pole, which ironically has the same name as their country, with a time of 6:09.360.
That is the slowest time we've seen from that particular boat and country.
It is. Yeah, it's a real shame, Everybody in final FB finished quicker than Pole. I'll give you a quick rundown of the countries that finished from 1st to 6th. A quick rundown here.
Perfect.
Ferg, USA, Jug, Den, Ott, and Nor. And Nor finishing 6th in that final had a time of 6:03.660, beating Pole's time by a full 2.5 seconds.
Well, and UG has just recently learned the technology of using ships, so that's very impressive that they're now able to compete at such a high level so quickly.
Yes, unfortunately, Jug couldn't pull out the victory over Ferg.
Well, I have some breaking news of my own in the world of sports here, Jordan. For years, fans have been wondering about the results of the 1989 Royal Rumble. And I'm here to tell you that Big John Studd won by eliminating Ted DiBiase. But his victory was not without controversy, Jordan. The competitor Jake the Snake Roberts had been eliminated from the Royal Rumble, only to return with a bag containing his pet snake Damien. Well, he brought Damien into the ring, used it to chase Andre the Giant to the ropes, and Andre the Giant eliminated himself because of the snake.
Just because of the shame?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. Andre, how could you do it? How could you eliminate yourself?
Andre was largely thought to be the favorite to win the Royal Rumble in 1989, but the honor goes instead to Big John Studd.
Well, congratulations to Big John Studd, and
Indeed. I'm
happy that we're the only network that can break this type of news. You know, this is what you're missing during the week.
Well, I have a little bit more breaking news in the world of sports, Jordan, that I'd like to share with you right now. This is an exclusive thing you're never going to see anywhere else. The sport of baseball will continue on.
Oh, thank goodness. I know we were all waiting for an answer to that question. Will we still have baseball?
It's so interesting. We've been hounding the MLB for weeks and weeks and weeks saying, will baseball continue? Will baseball continue? And our calls were routinely dismissed. In fact, when I called them, they said, can you stop bothering us with this?
Now, Dan, I know you've been very close to this story, so I do have a couple questions because I know you hold a lot of knowledge about this particular topic.
Yes.
Will they still be using baseball bats?
Yes, they will, Jordan. Baseball bats are still on the table. And before you get to your next question, the baseball itself will also be in play.
Oh my goodness. I know they were considering a baseball square, so to hear that they're using a baseball is fantastic news.
Absolutely. And a lot of people thought that baseball square was going to be the shape of the field, but it's still the diamond, the traditional diamond. Everything is exactly as it was.
That's good. I mean, we don't want to shake things up too much when it comes to baseball. It has been a constant in our history and in the world, and it's important it remains that way.
Indeed. Well, that's it for sports. Now we're on to our newest segment, something we're trying for the very first time here at Breaking the News, a cooking segment. And Jordan, you're going to demonstrate some of your fantastic chefing skills for us today?
Absolutely, Dan. As you know, I am a dynamo, a whiz, a real force, tour de force in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a lot of recipes sent to us by our listeners. We have a lot of celebrity chefs dying to get on this show. And we decided to just take all that, scrap all that, throw it aside today so that I could bring you an exclusive recipe.
Well,
Dan,
my tummy's rumbling already.
I have prepared something that our listeners are really going to enjoy. Today, we are having a delicacy. It's an exotic food. It's used in most major recipes. And you might not realize it, but you probably have never heard of it before. This is called a banana.
Oh. It looks kind of weird, actually. I'm not really sure how you would eat that food.
Yeah, I know. Looking at it, you might think you want to bite right into it, right?
Yes.
Very, very tempting.
Or like a cob of corn, maybe.
Yeah, perhaps. But as you can see, there's nothing to shuck here.
Right.
It doesn't have hair like corn. It's nice and smooth. And it's kind of the shape of the inside of your hand, so you can hold it real well, which I believe it was designed that way. And it's got, let's see here. Oh, did you hear that? Little ASMR.
What is that sound? What are you doing there? You're ripping the food apart?
Well, as you can see, I'm peeling the peel here of the banana.
Peeling, you call that?
Yes. Now, what you want to do is you want to peel the banana like this.
And then you discard the pit inside, or?
Yeah, you discard the pit inside, and you eat this flappy stuff that's left.
Oh.
This real dense, real yellow flappy stuff. You just chuck out that meaty pulp that's in the middle there, and you're left with this sort of banana flap, which smells great. Smells like banana.
Well, how did you go about preparing that particular food for us today, Jordan?
Well, I put a lot of thought into it, Dan. And as you know, there's a lot of ways to cook. You can fry things, you can bake things, boil and steam. But this is one of those foods where if you cook it, it can kill you.
Like sushi.
Exactly like sushi. So it's important to eat it as raw as possible. So I went out to a local farm and I approached a poacher and I asked them to secure me a banana, to hunt one of these down. And the way they do that, they take a spotlight, they point it at the banana, and then the poacher fires a bullet, a very high caliber bullet, and takes the banana down.
Oh, that's probably what that black part of the tip was that you showed me earlier when you were peeling it, was it? Yes, that must be where the gunshot occurs.
I believe that is exactly where the gunshot occurs. That's where the bullet enters, and I believe it exits through this other part here. Can you see that there?
Oh, yes, I do see that. It's also kind of blackened, maybe by the gunpowder.
I think that's the exit wound, I believe.
Hmm.
So you do have to skin these. I know, you got to skin them, you got to get rid of the guts, but then you have that delicious skin left over to eat.
Well, any dish that's worth preparing is worth preparing right.
Absolutely.
So can you tell me one last fact about these bananas, you called them? Is
Sure.
this a new food that's just been discovered, or you said it was in many, many recipes?
It's in many recipes, most recipes, I believe.
Hmm.
Banana is used when people are preparing steaks. Banana is used at most barbecues, a lot of seafood restaurants, basically everywhere you go. It's in a lot of curries, and it's in a lot of goulashes, a lot of stews, I believe it's used in.
Hmm.
So it's a very versatile ingredient.
Wow. Well, you know what? I love segments like this where this reporter can learn something new while we inform the public about this fabulous delicacy.
Mm-hmm. It's not every day we get to try an exotic food on this show.
That's true.
So
Well, thank you for sharing that knowledge with us, Jordan. We really appreciate that.
you're welcome. I hope that our viewers' minds received that information, digested it, enjoyed it, and will be hungry for more.
Excellent. Well, that's it for our cooking segment this week, which brings us to our wrap-up with Jordan.
Oh,
Jordan?
Fantastic. Thank you, Dan. Well, ladies and gentlemen, be sure to tune in next week where I will be interviewing a dinosaur strangler who has been strangling dinosaurs for 3 years.
Oh. I'll be interested to learn whether he strangles the long-necked dinosaurs up by the head, or in the middle of the neck, or down by the body.
I think we all have some very serious questions for this person.
Well, you're not the only one who's got a story prepared for next week, Jordan. Next week, I will be interviewing myself in a mirror.
Oh.
As you know, I've been the subject of many controversies as of late, and the interviews I've given to other stations I've come across very well. But this is a hard-hitting interview. I know a lot of things about myself that the other interviewers did not know, and I'll be able to ask some really probing questions in there.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I look forward to that hard-hitting interview. And
I'm also very good at knowing when I'm lying, is the other thing I was going to say.
well, then you're the perfect person to interview yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is fantastic. Now, Dan, you're a fan of tobacco and cigarettes and products like that.
Absolutely.
And next week, you will be overjoyed to know that I have a spokesman coming from Big Tobacco. They have decided to send their finest and most praised scientist, who is a gerbil, and he will be joining us next week for a look at what makes their cigarettes just so special.
Well, the only reason I don't advocate for cigarette smoking on every episode of this program is that our producers told me to tone that stuff down. So that will be a wonderful change of pace next week.
Yes, it will. I've just confirmed that doctors worry that people aren't smoking enough. So hopefully this gerbil will be able to get people smoking more and more and more.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, that's all the time we have for this week. I'm Dan.
I'm Jordan.
Thanks for tuning in.
See you next week.
That was Breaking the News with Dan and Jordan.